This story right here, guys, is making liberals and conservatives heads spin. Okay? Because you have police officers interacting with a second lieutenant in the army, and that interaction did not go so well, as the second lieutenant ultimately ended up getting pepper sprayed, right, doing what was supposed to be a traffic stop. Now, obviously, like all these issues, race is going to be a factor, okay? And there's all types of narratives that are popping up in regards to what is happening with this situation. Now, here's the thing. I encourage everybody to actually watch the full video. And I gotta say right off the bat, thank God for people like Officer Tatum. I'm so serious. I'm not trying to ride Tatum or anything like that, but his analysis of this situation and him showing exactly what happened from the beginning to the end and giving a perspective of a police officer really helps clarify exactly what happened and who's in the wrong, right? It really does. So I encourage anybody to not only just watch the full video of this interaction, but to also watch Officer Tatum's interpretation of this, okay? Because I think it's spot on. But I'm going to read to you guys what's happening now, right? And get a little background on it just in case some of you guys don't know. And then I'm going to give you guys my opinion on this. Disturbing. Windsor, Virginia police officer fired after using pepper spray at traffic stop. A Virginia police officer accused of pepper spraying a Black and Latino military officer and forcing him to the ground during a traffic stop in December has been fired, a Town of Windsor official said. Army Lieutenant Caron Nazario has filed suit seeking more than $1 million against the police officers Joe Gutierrez and Daniel Crocker. And video from the officer's body cameras and Nazario's cell phone went viral last week. Windsor, with a population of 2,600, has a police force of about a half dozen officers, according to the town's website. Following an internal investigation, Gutierrez was fired and additional officer training was implemented, Windsor Town Manager William Saunders said in a statement Sunday. Now, keep in mind, this incident happened back in December of 2020, right? I think it was like December 5th. This video came out, it went viral, and then after it went viral, they fired the officer, right? Quote, the town has also requested an investigation of this event by the Virginia State Police and joins with elected officials who have called for a full and complete review of the actions of these officers, Saunders said, adding that, quote, we are saddened by events like this to cast our community in a negative light. Virginia's governor, attorney general, and congressman and the NCAA were among those expressing outrage at the actions of Windsor police officers in recent days. A police report from the stop indicates the officer stopped Nazario because he did not have a rear license plate on his new SUV, although the report adds that after stopping the vehicle, they saw a temporary plate taped to a window. Video shows the officers order Nazario, who was in uniform, to exit his vehicle outside a gas station as he held his hands up through the driver's side window. Nazario said he was afraid to get out of the SUV and was blasted with pepper spray and forced to the ground. Later in the tape, the officers say they will let Nazario go if he remained quiet about the incident, but that he would face additional charges if he complained. Nazario was later released at the scene and not charged. Governor Ralph Northam issued a statement Sunday saying the incident is disturbing and angered me. He ordered the state police to investigate. The state NAACP highlighted an exchange during which Nazario says he is honestly afraid to get out of his vehicle, and the officer responds, yeah, you should be. Quote, we watch with horror the so-called traffic stop in Windsor. Virginia NAACP President Robert N. Barnett Jr. said the fact that an officer who is supposed to protect and serve felt emboldened enough to state this is the root of the problem. This isn't the first officer we have seen without fear of consequences for their actions. The group called for a special section of the Virginia General Assembly to pass a bill that will make it easier for people to sue police officers and their agencies in civil court for civil rights violations. The Virginia NAACP strongly believes that the Commonwealth must end qualified immunity now. Executive Director Daquan Marshall Love said Black Virginians can't wait. All right, guys. So there's some background there. The officer, Gutierrez, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, I'm going to butcher it, was fired, right? After the video came out. And now both officers are being sued by the second lieutenant in the Army, Nazario, okay? So what is my take on this? So a couple things. One, I'm going to address the race issue. The people that are calling racism on this, it's like, come on, man. The police officer obviously has a Hispanic sounding name, right? He looked pretty Hispanic. I would assume he's Hispanic. Who knows? The super woke revolutionaries classify Hispanics as white Hispanics and I guess black Hispanics or color Hispanics or non-white Hispanics, right? That's a classification. So that's maybe where the racism angle is coming from, but the dude is Hispanic. Now, the other officer was white, but he's not the one that was actually fired. Now, apparently, Officer Gutierrez had told his second lieutenant that he was fixing to, quote unquote, ride the lightning, which apparently is a reference to getting put to death by electric chair, right? But the thing is that he said this while he had a taser, right? So it probably just meant that you're about to get tased, right? And some people say this is racist, right? Because it refers to the movie The Green Mile, which is about a black man that's facing a death penalty. So who knows? I mean, that's up for interpretation, but I'm going to go with the most likely interpretation, which means you're about to get tased, right? Also, on top of that, the officer said that the reason why they pulled him over is because they thought he was alluding to police. Now, the second lieutenant basically said that he was trying to find a well-lit area to pull over, okay? And that led him to drive over 1.5 miles before actually stopping, okay? So you can see both sides here in that aspect. If you actually watch the video, right, the full video, and this is why I encourage people to watch the full video, when the confrontation actually occurred, right, it was basically impossible for them to tell whether or not the suspect was black, right? And also he's half Latino too. So I think the whole race angle in this is really reckless. It really is, right? And the media loves going after this angle because now you have a black/Latino man in military uniform, and now they just saw it as an opportunity to really jump on it, right? And again, like I said, guys, if you watch the whole video, right, these officers gave him multiple commands that the second lieutenant just did not follow, right? And don't get me wrong, I respect police officers, I respect our military servicemen, right? I respect both of them equally, okay? I have high respect for anybody who will sacrifice their lives and put their lives on the line to protect this country or their local communities. I really do, right? They are severely underpaid. But this is not gangland, okay? Right? Where you just have to take a side, right? I'm just being objective here. When they pulled him over, whether or not you think you got pulled over for right or wrong reasons, right? If you're asked to do something, right? If you want to protect your life, right? Just in general, protect your life, you probably want to follow commands, right? And he just was not doing it. Matter of fact, there's a video of him basically trying to record himself and record the situation while the officers are giving him commands, okay? And he just was not following instructions, right? And the officers, you know, definitely started the situation with a high level of escalation, right? They started with guns, right? And then they went to tasers, and then they went to pepper spray, right? So they basically decreased their use of force from something that's lethal to something that's less lethal to something that's basically non-lethal, okay? And all the while, this person is not compliant, right? And, you know, my thing is that I really just don't see why the officer was fired for this. I really don't. I just don't, right? Because, again, if you watch the whole video, again, I mean, yes, he used language that probably was not appropriate for the situation. Yes, he said things that probably was a little bit messed up, right? A little bit intimidating, okay? I get that. I 100% get that. But is that reason to fire him when the suspect was not complying with orders, right? And he was not complying to the point where even the officers were trying to open the door. He was trying to keep the door closed. Yeah, at that point, I mean, what else are you going to do, right? What else are you going to do? I mean, guys, there was just an incident a couple days ago in New Mexico where an officer was killed while trying to stop somebody, right? Guy gets out of the car with an AR-15 and basically open fires on the cop, okay? Right? And that cop died, right? So there is reasons why police officers would be cautious in this situation, right? And they're probably scared to a certain extent because there are things that they don't know about the suspect, right? This stuff happens. So I'm really curious as to, is the outrage about what you saw, or is it about the actual facts of the situation, right? Because I think a lot of people, like myself, saw just clips and snippets of the interaction and came to a conclusion about the situation rather than actually watching the whole video and watching the lead up to what had actually happened. And if you saw just clips, I can see why people would be mad and upset 100%. But you have to watch the whole clip. You have to watch all the footage because up until that point, he was not compliant. And in my opinion personally, like I said, you know, if I ever get pulled over by the cops, whether I believe I'm in the right or the wrong, you know, I'm not going to sit here and be asking a bunch of questions, this and that, going back and forth, because I understand that regardless of how I feel, right, my life is in danger, right? That this is a person with a gun who could easily take my life, right? So I'm going to do as I'm told to do, and I'll handle it in court if I feel like it was done wrongfully. I'm not going to try to agitate somebody with a gun, because if they kill me, that's just my life gone, whether right or wrong, whether people protest or not protest, no matter what happens afterwards, right? That's not going to bring my life back. And I really feel like, you know, this second lieutenant here, again, I respect his service. You know, I just feel like watching the whole thing, it's almost like he wanted to make a scene out of it. He wanted to be in a situation where this went viral. And again, I can be wrong about that. I'm just basing that based off of the fact that he tried to record it. And I don't blame him for trying to record it. I'm just saying, by the time the officers start giving you commands, it's a little bit too late to start recording. And I also understand why he would be scared. Anybody pointing a gun at you, you know, obviously you're going to be scared to make any sudden movement. I've definitely seen videos where, you know, cops are pointing guns at people and they tell people to do something and they do it and then they shoot. So I've seen that. I understand. But I think once they switched to a taser and then to the pepper spray, I just would have been like, all right, like, I'm done with this, right? You know what I'm saying? I just would have got out and been like, okay, officer, I'm doing what you want. You know, do what you got to do. And that's it. Once they moved down to less lethal force, I would have just gave up. But I do understand the hesitancy when you have a gun pointed at you. Because, again, all it takes is the pull of that trigger, and that's it. Okay? So I understand that to a certain extent. But the cops did de-escalate their use of force. They just did. That's a fact. And they gave him a lot of time. And I understand that he was scared. I 100% understand. I get it. Right? I 100% get it. But, this is one of those sticky situations, right? But I think that the media here is just being dishonest with how they covered it. Even in that article I read to you guys, they did not talk about, again, what led up to the actual interaction, like all the commands that was given, right? All the things that he was told to do that he just refused to do. They didn't even talk about that. They didn't discuss that at all. Okay? And when the media does this thing where they leave out important details, it really does skew the perception of the situation. And lo and behold, right, the super liberals and the woke revolutionaries, the first thing they want to jump to is, well, this is racism, right? This is an example of police executing authority over black people. And it doesn't matter if you're in the army. It doesn't matter who you are. Whether you're a politician, the police are going to treat you bad just because you're black. Okay? That's literally the narrative that's being pushed here, right? This is honestly a dream situation for the defund the police crowd. It really is. It's a dream situation. And the media is feeding into that dream because they're skewing the actual coverage, right? And I think that's really sad. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think that there's some terrible takes from some people that's on the right. Like some people talking about, oh, he had a loaded gun. And I'm like, all right, like every time somebody has a gun, right? That doesn't give police officers justification to use force against them. I mean, in this situation, the gun was in the vehicle, right? And it wasn't visible, and it wasn't even a factor throughout the whole interaction. Okay. So just bringing that up is just irrelevant. We are supposed to be pro Second Amendment, right? Like, and one of the reasons why is because of fear of tyranny from the state. The police is a part of the state. So those people who keep talking about he had a loaded gun, if you're conservative and you think that that's irrelevant, right, or provides extra justification, I think you might want to re-examine your position on the Second Amendment. I really do. Okay. And obviously this guy was in the military. So, I mean, I would expect him to have some type of weaponry on him, you know, or to be carrying in some capacity. So for the most part, I think this situation is overblown. I don't really agree with the officer being fired. Yes, he said some mean things. Yes, he said some things he probably shouldn't have said, right? Yes, he probably contributed to the increased intentions in the situation and, you know, scaring the suspect. But at the same time, you know, it's not like the suspect was actually complying, right? and they say that he was fired because he didn't follow department protocol, right? But again, they waited like 5 months to actually fire him. So to me, it's apparent that he got fired because this video went viral. That's why he got fired. He didn't get fired because he didn't follow department protocol. He got fired because this video went viral and there was a ton of media backlash. Okay. And it just goes to show how influential our media is, guys, right? How the narrative of the media can drive actions like this, right? It drove this police department to fire this guy when otherwise they probably wouldn't have fired him. It's kind of crazy how that works. So, you know, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.